Morning Ramblins. The Lube Wars. So, I tried to record a 2.5 hour long video because I got interrupted in the midst of it doing a basic walkthrough on the attributes and the different uses of different types of lube on a firearm, or rather a black powder gun, and placement of those particular lubes and where they're supposed to be put and how you're supposed to do it in order to get your gun to run like mine. It was so long and convoluted that I reiterated several points and ended up having to stitch 2 videos together. And when I finally went back and looked at it, I went, fuck this. I'm not going to be able to upload this. So, you're getting this instead. Quick warning. If you're testing my waters, you better know how to swim. All right. So, Mr. Lame Beaver called me out. Not directly, we'll say indirectly, kind of. Getting a lot of his facts wrong as far as, you know, what he was pointed in my direction, but I digress. When I go out shooting, I go out for about an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2. I don't go out there and camp and then shoot and then stay there for a while. And no, I'm not dragging gallons of water out there into the woods to go and clean my black powder guns in between shots. Secondarily, but more importantly, the black powder guns that I utilize in there is also the guns that I use as my personal defense weapon. So, specifically because there are big fucking bears. And I need to have something that can at the least, it's enough. It's not the perfect. It's not great. Then it's enough. And so that's, you know, that's the main focus of why I have a particular way about doing things. And when I watch these fellers go, oh, well, you know, that's not historical, or that's not this, that, or the other, I lose my fucking mind. Because, yes, it's historical. There was kerosene, lamp oil, and there was whale oil, which were both utilized in keeping guns lubricated back in the black powder days. Lamb's fat, lamb's tallow, and beeswax was actually a type of sealant used for the chamber mouths and only the chamber mouths in a black powder gun. And the reason for that specifically was to reduce chain fire. It's not supposed to be used on your arbor, cylinder pin, way pin, whatever you want to call it. All right? It wasn't supposed to be used there. You're supposed to use other lubricants there. Other lubricants like oil. Because oil will seep back into the black powder fouling. It doesn't burn off all the way completely. It's just right there at the cylinder face. So then, that's why you use oil, not grease. Grease is specifically for in the chamber mouths. You use oil in the ways and action. And I know I'm probably pissing off everybody that's ever heard anything about black powder, because it doesn't make fucking sense. But I ask you this. Your modern firearms, okay? What kind of lubricants do you use on those? If you're not using any kind of lubricant whatsoever, shame on you, you heathen. But for the rest of us civilized folk, on your modern firearm, are you using SPL lube? Are you using 3-in-1? Are you using motor oil? Are you using frog slime? Or you know what? Honest to God, I want to know. Put it down in the comments, because I'll tell you, I use Hoppy's number 9, and people will threaten you with fucking death and dismemberment for using Hoppy's number 9 in a black powder revolver. But I do. And I use WD-40 in confluence with Hoppy's number 9 as an action lube for the inside of the action. And people would look at me and with just horror in their eyes if I told them that. But here's the thing. That's how I run my modern firearm anyways. Same way. The only difference would be is if I was running a modern firearm, the barrel lube, okay, would be paraffin wax, not Crisco. There's your difference. Paraffin lube. Paraffin wax. Basically, you take a candle and you rub that on the outside of your bullet so that you get a good buildup in the little lube ring, the lube groove. That's the lube you use on your modern firearm. As barrel lube. Same concept, same idea. It's just lubricating the barrel. So that's what that's for. Then, there too, if you're doing black powder guns, you use the black powder lube on the projectiles in order to lubricate the projectile in the barrel each shot. Okay? That's in a cartridge. Now, says in like a black powder revolver, that's why we put the lube in front of the bullet, because the bullet spreads the lube out against the walls of the barrel. All right? This is why if you use too much, it comes splattering out the end. But if you use too little, you get a chain fire. Hello? This is the reason why that lube's job, its whole job, is reduction of chain fire and lubricating the barrel. It has no place inside of the way, inside of the action, anywhere back of the cone. And so I've heard a lot of stories this way, that way, the other way. I know what works, and I know what half-ass works and what might get you killed in the woods. I mean, I spent a lot of time in the woods with air guns and fucking machetes as my only way of protecting myself. I spent a lot of time in the woods with nothing but a 22 long rifle. Okay? And I mean, a bolt action 22 long rifle, single shot, because the magazine had fallen off, and the only way I could do it was to pop shells out with my fingernails and put the new round in. Really, it had become a target rifle because I couldn't repair it at the time. Didn't have the tools, didn't have the goods, didn't have the equipment or the know-how. Now I do. But I look back and I says, nothing about the way that I treat my firearms has changed. I keep them clean. I keep them in good working condition. And when I'm out doing a shooting session, like an actual, I'm going to the range for a day, to go and goof off for a little while, I carry lube with me. Hell, I carry it just as an everyday off-the-cuff sort of thing, because what happens if I get into a gunfight? I don't never want to. It's not a want. It's just a situation of my mind has always got that in the back of it. What happens if I get into a gunfight? What happens if I get into a gunfight and I can't get my cylinder out to reload it? That's fucking terrifying. Because now you don't have a gun. You've got a club. I would rather have a nasty, dirty, stinky, spitting black shit goo everywhere, looking all to hell gross functional gun than have what equates to a stinky paperweight after the first 2 shots. I mean, I exaggerate, but you get my point. When you have a conversion cylinder and you use that as your kind of your carry gun, okay? Just this is a for instance. So for those of you who you're super hardcore into being perfect, with black powder guns, and you got to be historically super accurate, just understand that the lube thing still applies, but the rest of this doesn't apply to you. So, anyways, I want to be able to get my cylinder out of the gun, pop those cartridges out, and be able to reload quickly. I don't want to be sitting there going, it won't fucking crank, I can't get it open, rink-a-dink-a-dink, all right? I don't want to be sitting there fighting it. I want it to just be pop right the fuck out. Right now. And when I go and up to the, the place where I go shooting, and I go shoot black powder cartridges, because of what I carry with me, I have never had a stuck cylinder up there. It wasn't until I started doing this that I realized that that could be a problem. Before, I was just testing things. I had other guns, I had other knives, weapons, whatnot to be able to protect myself. Now I've slimmed down to the point where I've only got, my buck knife, my pistol, and my small knife. That's by design. It's easier to carry this way. It's also, one of those things. I could carry all the rest of it and take it up to the range and go and have a fun time. But at the same time, I want my black powder pistol to be capable of fast, rapid disassembly and reassembly. I want it to be capable of rapid deployment and reliable deployment. There's a big reason behind all of this and why I make these mentions. When you shoot black powder, it throws off a ton of unburnt carbon, this, that, and the others. And so that gets stuck to your gun. It ends up as grooge all over the place. A thin coating of oil all around your gun. And then the chamber mouths specifically get the black powder lube. Okay, the solid lube. You won't have chain fires. You won't have any problem with the cylinder spinning. The reason why, like I said, why I do this is because I looked at historical analog examples and recognized men weren't stupid back then either. Okay? Everybody acts like, oh, well, we were just retarded back then. No, dumbass. You're just retarded now. There's a difference. They weren't retarded, you are. It's a matter of the gun itself. You got to think like they did. I need it to function. I need to be able to rely on it. If this one doesn't go off, the next one must. I don't have time. I can't diddly fuck around and play games with 2 hands palming the crap out of this shit to try and fuck around with the cylinder. I need it to fly. which is why they used a liquid lube on the arbor, weigh pin, weigh, loading lever, all the different moving parts, anything that was moving metal against metal, needed liquid lube. All the other parts that needed to be lubed were the chamber mouths, and perhaps the barrel if you were a stickler. But most people don't do that because they recognize, hey, if you lube the chamber mouths, it lubes the barrel for you. So, this is how they would run their guns. Even if they ran them dirty as hell. Lube saved your ass. A lot. Especially because it would protect against further corrosion. It would protect against the corrosive nature of black powder. And funny enough, when Crisco or lamb's tallow burns, it creates further gases to create impetus on the ball. Okay? So, if you can get a little bit more oomph out of the gun, food for thought, you know? Yeah, it makes a ton of smoke. Okay, whatever. Black powder is not smokeless. Duh! It's gonna make smoke. That thick, heavy-ass freaking grease smoke is your friend as much as you think it's your enemy. Because smoke screen. You dig what I says? Smoke screen makes it more difficult to pull out fine detail. And remember what the old adage is. Aim small, miss small, right? It's harder to aim small when you can't pull out fine detail. Especially when you've got things coming at you. It's usable. It's useful. It has a purpose and a characteristic that can be put to use. It's not just for, aesthetics and nostalgia's purposes. Really. Like, let me put it this way. With the metallurgy that was available, and for that matter, the way that replica black powder guns are made, all right, the capabilities of the metal, of the metallurgy itself, dictate that it has to operate within certain parameters of pressure, not parameters of velocities, not parameters of burn rates, pressures. Black powder can never create the pressures that nitrocellulose can create. So, why is it then that you can get 1,200 feet per second out of an 8-inch barrel with a black powder round? And with that same round, but in smokeless, you can only get maybe 700-800 feet per second. Well, that's because pressure versus driving gas. Black powder's larger particles, like I've been over this a million times, it's a more efficient driving gas. It is not a more potent driving gas. There is a difference here. Efficiency does not make a potent round. Efficiency just means that you can do more with less. Okay? So the efficiency of black powder is higher than the efficiency of nitrocellulose because the driving gases impart more energy over time. It's not, it's okay, how the fuck do I put this? Air gun versus nitrocellulose gun versus black powder gun. Okay? For an air gun to do the speeds that a black powder gun does, of a much smaller size, you're operating at damn near the same pressures. For a nitrocellulose gun to do the speeds that a black powder gun is doing, you are operating at well above the pressures of the black powder gun. And especially the air gun, but the black powder gun too. Especially in any sense like what I shoot, 45 Colt. I can get around humdinging out there at 1,300 feet per second with, just a right and proper charge of well-made black powder. I cannot do that with nitrocellulose without blowing the gun up because the metallurgy is not right. It comes down to understanding the technology. Okay, the technology of the time is not that far removed from the technology of our time. Okay, just because we use nitrocellulose now does not make it more efficient. It makes it more energetic. There is a difference. Efficiency versus overall surplus energy that it has to give. Black powder does not have the same amount of energy to give as nitrocellulose does. Nitrocellulose has a lot more energy to give. That's, in a nutshell, why. You get super high pressures, and you still get less than expected bullet speeds. That's why nitroglycerin is actually one of those great fucking those great smokeless powders, the new nitroglycerin extruded powders, okay? The really good fucking powders that are really fast and smokeless and really good and really efficient. You don't need all that much. It's because there's a lot more energy in nitroglycerin than there is in nitrocellulose. That does not equate more efficiency. Okay? The nitroglycerin isn't more efficient. It's just more energetic. The nitrocellulose isn't more efficient. It's just more energetic. Okay? It all comes back to that same thing with that. So it comes also to the same aspect of that's why I would run black powder rather than nitro in the gun that I got. Because that's the gun I got. So if I'm going to run black powder, I want it to run effectively and efficiently and well to the point where it doesn't matter that it's nasty and dirty and grungy and gets all over the fucking place. It does its job. That's the important part. It does its job. And you can't get it to do its job if the first shot fouls out your gun. You can't get it to do its job if it chain fires on you. You can't get it to do its job if you can't cock the fucking hammer. So, in a nutshell, lube your damn guns. Jesus wept. One of these days, people, you're gonna find out the fucking hard way. A lubed gun can save your life. A dry gun can fuck you over. And this is inverse with the AR-15 if you didn't know. A lubed gun can fuck you over, and a dry gun might save your life. This environment is a big factor when you're talking, smokeless guns versus black powder guns. They're loose because they have such efficiency with driving gas. They can afford to be loose. Okay? They can afford that. They can afford that loss in tolerance, those massive gaps. They can afford all of that because the driving gas makes up for it. Nitro guns can't. They can't afford that loose tolerance and that clankety jankety. So they actually call for a thinner lube or a dry lube, depending on your locality. Whereas a black powder gun, it wants to be wet. It needs to be slathered like a greased pig. Like a mud wrestling contest. It needs to be slathered. It needs to be grody wet. So that even if you have a really nasty, dirty bout of black powder, it's not going to stop your gun. No matter what. This is like literally getting into the weeds on it, I'm sure. And I'm sure I'm going to piss some people off, but I got called out on some shit, and I'm not happy about that. Just simply because I don't carry water out in the fucking woods. There's water all around me. There's a creek right down the way. I don't use water to clean my guns. Especially not in the field. Even at home, sometimes I won't use water to clean my guns. I just spent, the 2 hours I was doing the video before cleaning Josephine with no water involved. WD-40. Quite literally. That's WD-40 and some patches. Cleaned it all. No issues. Really. I'm not lying about nothing. There's a reason why my gun, for instance, we'll do this. There's a reason behind that. Why it's got that nice, okay? And our ancestors did that for that good reason. You understand me now? They did that for a good reason. Functionality. Will it continue as long as you need it to? I understand. Okay, 6-shot black powder cap and ball revolver you carry out in the woods. You're only going to get 6 shots. Great. Would really suck to only get off 3. Would really suck to only get off 1. Would really suck to not get off any at all. Lube your fucking damn guns. Hell, I know in the past I've talked about Crisco like crazy, but I'm going to point some out at you. Don't put Crisco on the way. Because it turns into a booger when it gets mixed up with the fouling, with the black powder fouling. And that just makes everything crunchy and yucky and a pain in the ass to get it to work. It will work, but it's really gooey. The best way to do cylinder pin, Hoppy's number 9. You don't got to cut shit up. You don't got to do nothing. No modifications whatsoever. You don't got to fuck with the hammer. Don't got to fuck with the cylinder. You ain't got to fuck with nothing. Couple of drops of lube. Real lube. Not Crisco. Crisco's great for the chamber mouths, and you just use it there. Just leave it with that. Use the beeswax to seal up the freaking nipples on the back end of it. You know, when you go to screw them home, instead of using anti-seize, beeswax. It works way better. That's what I use on mine. I seal the back ends, the nipples, with beeswax. I grease the chamber mouths with Crisco. And then I put a drop on the pin, on the cylinder pin, or the arbor, or whatever you want to call it, of Hoppy's number 9 gun oil. I put a drop of Hoppy's number 9 gun oil on the hammer, and then take WD-40 and do a spritz of WD-40 on top of that drop of gun oil, and it shoots that all the way down into the gun, down into the internals. And I know for a fact that that would piss somebody off, because they would sit there and be like, "Wait a minute, that's you're not supposed to do that. That's wrong. That's not how you take care of a gun." That's exactly how you take care of a gun. Everything that they teach you here on the internets, on the YouTubes, is a lie. Out fucking right. And until you learn for yourself, you're never going to know that. You're never going to be able to sit there and says, "I would never do that with a gun." Rather, you're going to sit there and go, "Well, they say you shouldn't do that. They say you should do that. I think I'm going to go with them, because they say you should do that." No, learn. Figure it out. Find out for yourself. Don't be sitting there going and saying, "Well, I'm going to take this man's word because, you know, he seems to be old enough to know what he's talking about." Some of the old timers have fed you some of the biggest bullshit, and me too, and I followed along with it, and I fully accept that I listened to that crap for years before trying something different and going, "Damn it, why didn't I just listen to my dad?" Because my dad didn't lie to me. He was fucking raw and real with me about shit. He looked at it as a situation of, I don't want my son to ever distrust me. Jokes were obviously jokes. Obviously. Punishment was obviously earned punishment. You know, there was never a vindictive bone in that man's body. He was straight up and honest with me the entire time, and that's why I try to bring to y'all. Don't feed into this bullshit of, "Well, I've got to grease the cylinder pin with Crisco, and I've got to grease the hammer with Crisco, and the inside of the action, get it all nice and gooey with shit." No, you don't. And yes, a little bit of Dawn dish soap and some hot water will clean shit right out. Hot water will do it too. So will WD-40. And when they say, "Oh, well, you shouldn't use WD-40 for that, it's just so bad for everything," don't listen. Test it for yourself. Don't listen. Don't even listen to me. You know that? Don't even fucking listen to me. Go turn around, go walk your ass down to the store, go buy yourself one, figure it out for yourself, and then you come back and you tell me. You tell me. Am I wrong? Buy all the synthetic crap and all the other extra special shit, and you tell me. Am I wrong? Or am I onto something here? Because, far as I can tell, I'm onto something here. Couple drops of Hoppy's number 9, and my gun runs fine. All right? So, I don't know why we need to go and do all this extra shit about, cutting up the cylinder pin inside just to make it so that we got somewhere to jam that frickin' black powder fouling further back into the action, dirtying up the action faster, instead of, a couple of drops of Hoppies number 9 comes right the fuck apart. It's almost as if it turns it into oil. Like you're sitting there turning black powder fouling into crude oil. Before your very eyes. Now, you do this. Someone who's got a Remington new model army. Go out, shoot the dirtiest black powder you know of. Shoot it till the cylinder locks up on your ass. Then take Hoppies number 9, put a couple of drops. Not douse the whole damn thing like you're using freaking Tabasco hot sauce. I'm not talking about that. Couple of drops. Dwip, dwip. On the cylinder in the way of the gun. Here, like, I'll give you a reference point, okay? So, right here, you turn your gun like this, hold it at an angle to the ground, okay? And you're going to put 1 drop here, and let that drop just slide down, and then you're going to spin the cylinder and let that work all the way down, because it'll break it loose. Say your hammer gets locked up and lodged in there in the half cock position. A drop on the inside of the hammer here. Then take that WD-40 that I was telling you about, that little spray can or whatever, or you got a big spray can with the big old tube thing, whatever. Spray that drop of Hoppies down into the action. Now, disassemble right quick. And it will work itself apart. Okay? And I'm saying this from experience. I'm not talking through my neck, but you go ahead and you do that. You know, you prove me wrong or prove me right. Figure it out for yourselves. Because last I checked, I wasn't doing not a damn thing wrong, because it works. And you know what they says about things? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, improvements only come when you fix something that ain't broke. And I have improved by taking modern technology and applying it to old technology. Marrying the two up, making them happy with each other, and then suddenly it's a beautiful day. So if you got anything out of this, awesome. If and you didn't, well, go make your own damn video, motherfuckers. I'm out.